There's a moment when you realize something most people spend years avoiding. No one is coming to fix what you feel. Not the perfect conversation, not the right timing, not even the people you expect the most. And when that hits, it can feel uncomfortable, but it can also wake you up. Because as long as you keep waiting for something outside of you to bring clarity, relief, or direction, you stay stuck. Thinking more, replaying more, expecting more, and nothing really changes. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. Real strength begins the moment you stop placing your peace in other people's hands. When you let go of needing answers, approval, or control, your mind starts to loosen, and you finally begin to move forward. What you're about to hear is not designed to comfort you. It's meant to shift something inside you. Because if you've been feeling stuck, overwhelmed, or mentally drained, this is where that changes. Not by adding more noise, but by letting go of what's been weighing you down. If this is hitting you in the right moment, you can subscribe and join as a member to keep building this mindset together. And tell me something honestly in the comments. What are you still holding on to right now that you know you need to let go of? I'll be reading you. First lesson: stop waiting for someone else to fix what only you can face. Imagine this scene. You are in the middle of the ocean, drifting in a small boat without a motor. At first, you look toward the horizon with hope, convinced that sooner or later someone will appear to rescue you. Hours pass, then days, and there are no signs of anyone, just you, the water, and the silence. And in that silence, when you have already shouted until your voice is gone, something changes everything. You stop looking outward and start looking at your own hands. You realize that if you want to move, you will have to row yourself. And even if the waves are stronger than you expected, even if you move slowly, with every stroke you become stronger. Now bring that into your life. Not at night, not in bed, but in those moments when something feels off and you don't know how to fix it. You wait. You wait for clarity, for the right words, for someone to understand you, for something to shift. You tell yourself that maybe tomorrow you'll feel different, that eventually things will fall into place. But while you wait, nothing really moves. Because progress does not begin when something outside of you changes. It begins the moment you stop waiting for that change. The Stoics spoke precisely about this. They said you cannot control the wind, but you can adjust the sails. And in real life, adjusting the sails means accepting that no one is coming to organize your thoughts for you. Not a conversation, not validation, not distraction, not the constant noise you use to avoid facing what's really there. The uncomfortable truth is that everyone is too busy trying to stay afloat in their own mental ocean. And when you accept that, something inside you shifts. You stop expecting the world to carry what only you can process. Think about it for a moment. How many times have you delayed a decision because you were waiting to feel ready? How often have you replayed conversations, hoping to find a better outcome in your head? How many times have you looked for signs, approval, or reassurance before taking a step forward? Every time you do that, you give your power away. You hand control of your direction to something outside of you. And your mind stays stuck, going in circles, because it's waiting for a signal that never really comes. Epictetus explained it with a simple idea. You cannot control what happens, but you can control how you respond. And that response is everything. Change does not begin when conditions are perfect. It begins when you decide to move, even without certainty. One small action can shift your entire state. Pause for a moment, breathe slowly, and ask yourself what you are still trying to control. Name it clearly, then decide what is actually in your hands right now and act on that. Not tomorrow, not when it feels easier, but now. Another simple practice. Take the one thought that keeps repeating in your mind and put it into action, even in the smallest way. If it's a conversation, write the message. If it's a decision, take the first step. If it's something you can't control, consciously choose to stop feeding it. Your mind does not calm down by thinking more. It calms down when you stop engaging with what leads nowhere. My friend, realize this. There is no rescue coming, and that is not bad news. It is what gives you your power back. Because the moment you accept that no one is coming to fix your inner world for you, you stop resisting and start moving. And when you move, even slightly, something inside you begins to align. This is the reality check most people avoid. Understanding that no one is coming to save you should not break you, it should free you. Because the instant you stop waiting for something external to change your life, you take control of it. And right there, in that moment, everything starts to shift. You stop staring at the horizon waiting for answers, and you finally pick up the oars and move forward. Lesson 2. Your emotions are not an excuse. There are days when you feel awful. Really. Zero energy, zero motivation, zero patience. Days when everything feels heavy, annoying, overwhelming. And I get it, my friend. We've all been there. But be careful. Feeling bad doesn't give you permission to treat others poorly or to abandon what matters to you. Because when you start using your emotions as an excuse to disconnect, to close your eyes and let life slip by, in the end, the one who loses is you. You're handing over your well-being to the wind, and sooner or later that takes its toll. My friend, emotions are like the weather. Sometimes it's sunny, sometimes it rains, sometimes there's a full-on storm. But if you're truly a stoic, you don't let yourself get swept away by them. Think about what Marcus Aurelius said. Anger, if not restrained, is frequently more hurtful than the injury that provokes it. The Stoics weren't emotionless robots. They didn't pretend everything was fine. They felt pain, sadness, anger, but they didn't let those feelings take the wheel. No, because they knew that losing control comes at a high cost. Living at the mercy of your emotions is like handing over your peace again and again. Picture this. Your boss throws a cutting comment at you. Your computer crashes right when you're in a hurry, and you finally get home, just wanting a break. Then someone speaks to you, and you explode. You don't breathe, you don't think, you react like it's all their fault. And what's worse, that moment, a chance for peace, for self-care, gets buried under the weight of what you felt earlier. That's how you stop living and start shutting down, by giving your emotions power, one after another, until you lose sight of yourself. So next time you feel overwhelmed, pause, breathe, say out loud what you're feeling: anger, sadness, frustration. Then choose how you're going to respond, not from the heat of the moment, but from the steadiness you've been training. Do what Luis Muñoz suggests. When an emotion hits hard, the first step isn't to act. It's to name it. Ask yourself, what exactly am I feeling? Is it frustration, sadness, guilt, anger? Naming it already turns the volume down. Then breathe. Literally. Give yourself 30 seconds. Step out of the scene. Go to the bathroom if you have to. And in that space, decide not what your body is screaming for, but what your calmer self would want to do. Because like he says, emotion is a message, not a command. You can listen to it without letting it sweep you away. Remember what Seneca said, the greatest power is self-control. And that power doesn't come from having perfect days. It comes from choosing with clarity, even when everything inside is burning. Because if you let your emotions steer the ship, you'll be sailing without a rudder. And life doesn't wait for the storm to pass before it keeps going. So tell me, are you really going to keep wasting your days just because you haven't learned to handle what you feel? Lesson 3. Your energy is a limited resource. Imagine you have to cross a desert with a single bottle of water. You know it's the only thing that will keep you alive, so you should use it wisely, right? But instead of drinking it when you truly need it, you start wasting it on pointless things, splashing your face because it's hot, cleaning the dust off your shoes, watering a dried-up plant along the way. And when you finally feel real thirst, you realize the bottle is empty. That's exactly how your mental energy works. It's not infinite. If you waste it on things that don't serve you when you truly need it, there will be nothing left. Look around. People draining their energy in pointless arguments on social media, fighting with strangers over topics that don't even affect their lives, reacting with anger trying to win a debate that won't change anything. And the worst part? They don't even realize what they're losing. Marcus Aurelius understood this well. If something external disturbs you, it's not the event itself that affects you, but the importance you give it. Because what truly exhausts you isn't what happens, it's what you choose to focus on in your mind. Psychology explains this in a very simple way. Your brain works like a battery. Every decision you make, every thought you repeat, every worry you dwell on, it all consumes energy. But instead of using it on what truly matters, you end up draining it on useless concerns. Think about it. You wake up and before doing anything productive, you've already spent half an hour scrolling through social media, looking at things you don't even care about. Then you waste another hour replaying a conversation from yesterday, wondering if you said something wrong. You spend the entire day stuck in repetitive worries, draining yourself with thoughts about things you can't change. And by the time you actually need energy to make important decisions to move forward, you're already exhausted. Well, my friend, I hate to be the one to tell you this, but your mind is destroying you, and you don't even realize it. So here are 2 strategies to take back your energy and stop wasting it on things that don't matter. First, do a mental fast. If something doesn't serve you, cut it out. Just like you're mindful of what you eat to avoid poisoning your body, be mindful of what you consume mentally. Ask yourself, is this adding value to me, or is it just draining my energy? If it's the second, let it go. Second, recharge before you run empty. Don't wait until you're completely drained to realize you've wasted your day on useless worries. What can you do? Spend a few minutes in silence, write down 3 things you want to focus on, or simply decide, consciously, where you're going to invest your energy. Now tell me, what are you spending yours on? Drop it in the comments because I want to know if you've realized how much you might be losing without even noticing. Lesson 4. The silence that teaches you more than 1,000 pieces of advice. Picture this. You're going through a tough time and you decide to post about it on social media. You hope someone will reach out, cheer you up, tell you everything's going to be okay. But time goes by and the screen stays empty. No one reacts, no one asks, no one seems to notice. And there, right in that uncomfortable silence, in that loneliness that would have crushed you before, something different happens. Instead of waiting for comfort from the outside, you decide to give it to yourself. You turn off your phone, go for a walk with no destination, and for the first time, you start listening to yourself. Not to what the world wants you to think, but to what you truly feel. Most people run from that silence because they mistake it for abandonment. But in reality, that apparent emptiness is one of the most powerful spaces that exists. Marcus Aurelius said the soul strengthens itself by retreating inward, and he wasn't talking about cutting yourself off from the world, but about building an inner refuge, a place where there are no outside opinions, no judgments, no expectations, just you, face to face with your most honest thoughts. That's where you can finally recognize what's really hurting you, what you truly want, what you're doing just to please others, and what part of yourself you've been ignoring for far too long. My friend, we live in a society where noise has become the norm. We put on music so we don't have to think. We check our phones every 2 minutes so we don't have to feel. We pack our schedules so we don't have to listen to ourselves. And the more noise we create, the more disconnected we become from the only voice that really matters, our own. That voice doesn't shout, it doesn't beg for attention, but it knows better than anyone what you need. That's why you need to stop running from silence. Don't see it as the enemy. Make it your teacher. Set aside a few minutes each day with no distractions, no music, no notifications, no conversations. Sit in stillness as if you were facing a wise inner guide and ask yourself the questions you rarely ask. What do I need to let go of today? What desire am I chasing just because others expect it? What decision am I avoiding out of fear? And then, listen. It might be hard at first. The inner noise might feel overwhelming, but with time, that voice becomes clearer, more honest. When you learn to have a real conversation with yourself, something inside you shifts. Your intuition stops being a whisper and becomes a compass. The doubts that once felt enormous start to shrink. The answers you were seeking in others, they were inside you all along, because the soul, as the Stoics believed, already knows the way. It just needs the noise to quiet down so it can remind you. So embrace that silence, even if it hurts at first. Accept that no one cares as deeply about what's inside you as you do. And that's not sad, it's freeing. Because the moment you stop looking for answers outside and start finding them within, your life takes a profound turn. Silence stops being a sign of abandonment and becomes the place where you're reborn, stronger, clearer, and fully in charge of your own path. Lesson 5. Stop carrying what's not yours. I know, my friend, you're tired. And I'm not talking about the kind of tired that goes away with a nap. I mean the kind that sinks into your chest and makes you feel like you're dragging a ton of invisible weight every single day. But it's not because of everything you do, it's because of everything you carry. And no, don't look at your back. No, you're not wearing a backpack, but you are carrying other people's opinions, guilt that doesn't belong to you, demands you never asked for, and expectations you don't even agree with. And to help you understand what I mean, let me tell you the story of Maria Balán, the real woman behind the movie, The Impossible. She survived the tsunami in Thailand, but what really broke her was what came after. For years, she lived with a silent guilt, the guilt of having survived when so many others didn't. She became the rock of her family, the strong one, the one who never crumbled. But inside, she was falling apart. She didn't speak up, didn't complain, didn't allow herself to feel. She thought she had to repay life somehow, until one day she just couldn't go on. And that's when she realized something. She had been breathing, yes, but not living. The phrase that hit me the hardest was when she said she'd wasted years trying to be what everyone else needed, and had forgotten who she was, just like you do, when you worry about what your boss thinks even though they don't respect you. When you carry your partner's emotional baggage as if it were yours. When you wear yourself out trying to hold on to people who have already let go of you. And no, you're not failing. You're just carrying burdens that don't belong to you. Psychologist Tomás Navarro put it clearly on his podcast. We suffer more because of what we allow than because of what we confront. And he's right. Because most of the time, it's not what's happening around you that wears you down. It's what you allow inside. The interesting thing is, the ancient Stoics already had this figured out. Epictetus taught it in a simple but powerful way. Some things are up to us and some are not. His whole philosophy started from that radical split. If it's not up to you, let it go. If it is, act with virtue. Sounds basic, but do you really know how to do it? Here's something different you can do tonight. Write down everything that's worrying you. Then one by one, cross out the things that aren't in your control. For example, my mom being in a bad mood, the team not doing their job, that guy not understanding me. That's not up to you. That's not your weight to carry. Also try this. The next time someone asks you for something you just can't take on right now, answer calmly and firmly. I can't right now. My plate's full. You can soften it if you want, say, I'd love to help, but at the moment I need to protect my energy. You don't need to be harsh, just clear. And most importantly, stop feeling guilty for not being everyone's lifeline. You're not. No one is. And if you try to be, the only thing you'll manage is to drown yourself. So what about you, my friend? What are you carrying that doesn't belong to you? Share it in the comments, because I promise you, you're not alone in this. We're all learning to let go. And your experience might help someone else do the same. This community is here to support you. Because when you stop carrying what isn't yours, you start getting your life back. And right now, that's exactly what you need most. Sixth lesson. What you feed grows. Your mind is like an algorithm. Whatever you give it, it multiplies and gives back to you. If you feed it fear, it will return even more reasons to be afraid. If you fill it with negativity, it will show you problems everywhere. It's a cycle you don't even notice, until it has already trapped you. And here, I want to tell you about someone I know well. A few years ago, a friend of mine decided to plant a lemon tree in his garden. He took care of it diligently, watering it and protecting it from the cold. But one day he started neglecting it. At first, it seemed like nothing was happening. A week without water, then 2. It's fine, it's strong, it will survive, he thought. But what he couldn't see was that beneath the soil, the roots were weakening. By the time he finally tried to save it with a flood of water and nutrients, it was already too late. He had fed neglect, and neglect ended up drying out the tree. Now tell me, don't we do the same with our minds? If you fill it with complaints, hopelessness, and fear, that's exactly what will grow inside you. Think about this. If every day you tell yourself that nothing ever goes right, that everything is difficult, that life is unfair, what do you expect to happen? That suddenly everything changes by magic? That one day you wake up and the world smiles at you, even though you've spent years training your mind to see only the bad? No, of course not. If you water negativity, don't expect to harvest peace. If every time you fail, you think, I'm a disaster. If every obstacle makes you say, this is impossible. If every problem reinforces the belief that everything always goes wrong for me, then, my friend, what you're doing is programming yourself to fail before you even start. What you feed grows. And if you keep feeding your worst enemy, don't expect it to ever give you anything good in return. And this isn't about magic or just putting an inspiring quote on your wallpaper and forgetting about it. Science explains it clearly. If there's one book you should read about this, it's The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale. And no, it's not one of those books that say, just think happy thoughts and everything will be fine. What Peale explains is much deeper. Your mind believes everything you repeatedly tell it. If every day you say, I'm not good enough, guess what? Your brain will take it as a fact and start acting accordingly. And the same happens the other way around. If you start focusing on what you can improve, on what you can do, little by little your perspective on life will change. It's not magic. It's simply how the brain works. But I know you want to change and take back control of your mind. So I'm going to tell you something that could make all the difference. The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. And no, that's not my quote. It's from Marcus Aurelius. But listen carefully, because this idea isn't something to read and forget. Tattoo it in your mind. You don't need to ink it on your skin, but you do need to imprint it in your thoughts. Write it down, stick it on your wall, set it as your wallpaper if necessary. I have it printed on my board and read it every day. Because when a worry hits me, when my mind tries to drift toward the negative, that phrase reminds me that I always have a choice: to feed the complaint or to train my mind to look for solutions, opportunities, and lessons. And you, how can you apply this in your life? First, identify what you're feeding. You can't change what you don't notice. So the next time you catch yourself stuck in a loop of negative thoughts, pause. Ask yourself, is this helping me or is it just dragging me down further? Second, change your inner dialogue. This isn't about repeating empty affirmations. It's about rewriting the things you tell yourself every day. Instead of, I can't, try, I'm going to try and I'll learn in the process. It may seem simple, but your mind acts according to what you tell it. Third, choose better what you consume. If you spend your days surrounded by catastrophic news, social media full of complaints, and people who only see problems, what do you think will happen in your mind? Exactly, the same thing. Start filtering what you allow into your head. So tell me, my friend, what are you planting in your mind? Because if you plant thorns, don't expect to harvest flowers. And most importantly, if you want to take back control of your life, start by taking back control of your thoughts. Only you decide what to feed. Lesson 7. Thinking is not doing. My friend, let's be clear. Making lists of goals is not progress. Reading about discipline does not make you disciplined. Thinking about going to the gym is not the same as training. Do you see the pattern? We love to fool ourselves. We believe that planning is the same as taking action, that watching motivational videos is the same as getting started. And so, days, Weeks, months go by, convinced that we're making progress when, in reality, we're still in the same place. It's like buying a pot and expecting it to make soup on its own. You stare at it, imagine the perfect recipe, even buy the ingredients. But if you don't light the fire and get to work, you'll stay hungry. Marcus Aurelius put it bluntly, do not explain your philosophy, embody it. What did he mean by this? That you can talk all you want about what you're going to do, about the life you want to build, about the changes you want to make in your routine. But if you don't get up and act, nothing changes. Did you know there's a phenomenon called analysis paralysis? That's exactly how your mind is destroying you. It happens when you spend so much time thinking about how to do something perfectly that, in the end, you do nothing at all. And here's something interesting explained by Patrick McGinnis, the speaker who coined the term FOBO, fear of better options. In other words, the fear of choosing because you always believe there's a better option. Sound familiar? You think about starting the gym, but first, you want to find the perfect workout routine. You think about learning a language, but first, you search for the best course, the best app, the best method. And meanwhile, the days pass, and you still haven't started. So, how can you take action and regain control? First, you probably already know the 5-second rule. If you feel the impulse to do something useful, do it before your brain talks you out of it. If you think about standing up and stretching, do it within 5 seconds. If you think about calling someone, dial the number before laziness kicks in. Don't give your mind time to sabotage you. Second, use the idiot method. Instead of waiting for the perfect plan, do it as if you were a clueless beginner. It's better to start clumsily than to stay stuck searching for perfection. Want to write a book but don't know how? Write 1 page, even if it's bad. Want to learn how to cook but have no idea? Burn some eggs if necessary. The key is to get moving. Third, break the action barrier with something absurd. If stepping out of your comfort zone scares you, do something ridiculous to prove to yourself that nothing happens. Walk outside wearing something weird. Sing loudly in a place where you normally wouldn't. Do push-ups in an unexpected spot. You'll see that the world keeps spinning and that your fear of looking foolish is just a mental block. Because, my friend, the problem has never been that you don't know what to do. It's that you overthink it. Take a moment to reflect. If everything you've learned so far stays locked in your head, what's the point? You can understand every idea, every strategy, every piece of advice. But if you don't apply them, you remain stuck. And now we arrive at the final piece of the puzzle. Because if there's one thing that can either set you free or destroy you, it's the way you take care of your mind. So before we finish, there's one more thing you need to hear. Lesson 8. The end of the victim role. Tell me the truth. How many times have you asked yourself, why me? How many times have you thought that if your parents had done things differently, if your boss appreciated you more, or if life had dealt you a better hand? Different hand. Everything would be different by now. It's easy to get stuck in that loop. But now think about this. Do you think Epictetus would have allowed himself to live in victim mode? He, who was a slave, humiliated, beaten, and literally had control over nothing. And even then, instead of repeating, "This isn't fair," he chose to ask himself a much more powerful question. What can I do with what I have? And that simple shift marked the beginning of his transformation. That's exactly what happened to Eric Thomas, one of the most well-known motivational speakers in the world. For years, he slept on the streets, blaming his absent father, the system, and society for everything that went wrong. His story was a catalog of excuses, until one day he realized something you and I also need to understand. No one was coming to rescue him, and that's when he stopped saying "I can't" and started taking action with what little he had. He didn't fix his life overnight, but he did reclaim the most important thing, his power over it. Marcus Aurelius wrote a phrase we should repeat to ourselves every morning. You have power over your mind, not outside events. You can't control what's happened, but you can choose how you face it. Complaining is easy, I know, but it's also an invisible prison that keeps you stuck. Every time you say, I can't because, well, you're actually choosing to stay right where you are. And every time you wait for someone else to fix it, you're giving up your own strength. Next time you hear that voice in your head, pause and change it. Instead of saying, I can't because, say, how can I do it despite? It seems like a small shift, but it completely changes your mindset. You stop being the victim and start becoming the lead in your own story. And if the past feels heavy, don't use it as an excuse, use it as fuel. Every wound can push you forward if you decide not to stay stuck in it. Think about all the areas of your life where you're waiting for something external to change. That relationship that never gets better, that job that never comes, that dream you keep postponing. Now imagine accepting, once and for all, that no one cares as much about it as you do. That truth, which stings at first, is the very thing that sets you free. Because when you understand it, you stop depending on the help that never arrives and start building with your own two hands. So now I want you to ask yourself honestly, in what part of your life are you still waiting for someone else to fix it for you? Write it in the comments, and let's commit, together, to stop waiting for someone to rewrite our story. Because when you accept that no one's going to save you, my friend, that's when you begin to save yourself. And that's exactly when your life truly begins to change. 9th lesson. What matters most is already with you. Sometimes we live as if we're always missing something, as if real life will only begin once we've achieved this or that, once we have more money, more time, more luck, or more motivation. You know what I call that? Chronic whenism. When I have more money, I'll start. When I have time, I'll sign up. When I feel motivated, I'll get going. It's a kind of ongoing excuse that makes you believe your life will begin tomorrow. But that tomorrow never arrives, because there's always another when. And in the meantime, my friend, life goes on. It's like looking all over the house for your glasses, only to realize you were wearing them the whole time. That's you, rummaging through other people's drawers, looking outward, feeling incomplete, when the most valuable thing is already inside you, but you don't see it, because you're too busy chasing what you think you lack. And do you know who understood this perfectly? Though a little late, Laura Ingalls Wilder. She spent her whole life in the countryside, without formal education, without connections, without luxuries. She could have said 1,000 times, when I know more, I'll write, or when someone gives me a chance, I'll start. But one day she realized she already had what mattered, her story, her experience, and her voice. And with that, she wrote her first book, at the age of 65. No more waiting. No more adding anything else. That's when she stopped postponing her life and started using it. And you? Think about it. How many times have you skipped doing something you truly wanted just because it wasn't the perfect moment? You haven't started that project because you don't have the ideal setup. You're not learning something new because you think your foundation isn't strong enough. You're not taking care of yourself because you don't have time. But in truth, what's stopping you isn't a lack of resources, it's the wrong perspective. So do you really need more, or do you just need to begin? Start by making a list of what you already have that could help you. Are you good at painting? Can you code? Are you great with people? Can you cook like nobody else? Are you super organized? That's your starting point. Don't underestimate it. Write it down. Because as long as you keep ignoring what's already yours, you'll keep waiting for something magical to show up from the outside. Next, think about that project you've been putting off. What part of it could you start today? No excuses. Maybe you can't do the whole thing, but you can take that first step. Then, every night, jot down one thing from your day that was already a gift. That conversation, that quiet moment, that small step forward. Gratitude makes you aware. Remember what Epictetus said. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. And he didn't say that just to sound wise, though he was, extremely. He said it so you'd stop postponing your life while waiting to have more. Because what matters is not all that you're missing. It's everything that's already with you and still unused. So, my friend, Stop waiting for the perfect moment and start building something with what you have today. Lesson 10. What if everything you fear never happens? Tell me something. How many nights have you spent worrying about something that in the end never even happened? How many times have you exhausted yourself imagining the worst possible scenario, only for everything to turn out fine, or worse yet, for nothing to happen at all? Picture an elite athlete before a big competition. For weeks, he barely sleeps. He envisions himself tripping just before crossing the finish line. He feels all eyes on him as he fails miserably. It's so vivid in his mind that it's as if he is already lost. But when race day arrives, none of that happens. He runs as he always does, gives his best, and to his surprise, everything goes well. So what was the point of all that suffering? And now, tell me, how many times have you been that athlete in your own life, imagining things that never actually happen? But don't worry, this doesn't just happen to you or me. Seneca said it over 2,000 years ago. We suffer more in imagination than in reality. Think about it. Most of our fears aren't real. They are creations of our own minds. We worry about what others might think, about what could go wrong, about everything that could fall apart. And in 90% of cases, none of it ever happens. It's as if our mind is a horror movie screenwriter, a writer obsessed with crafting the worst possible scenarios, placing obstacles that don't even exist, making us feel like something terrible is just around the corner. When in reality, things are much simpler. But why do we do this? Psychology has a name for this mental torture: anticipatory anxiety. And here's the interesting part. According to psychologist Ethan Kross, author of the book Chatter, our mind is like a professional paranoiac. It's always preparing for an emergency, even when there's no emergency at all. Why? Because the brain believes that if it imagines the worst possible scenario, it will be better prepared. It's like having a personal assistant constantly whispering, "Hey, be ready, because something horrible might happen today." And when nothing happens, it doesn't even apologize, it just keeps inventing new disasters. And there you are, mentally draining yourself over things that never even happened, over and over again. I'm sure it has happened to you before. You check your phone and see that someone is taking too long to reply to your message. Your mind starts racing. Are they upset? Did I say something wrong? They probably can't stand me anymore. Hours later, they finally respond, "Sorry, I was at the gym." And just like that, you realize you wasted all that energy stressing over something that never even existed. The question is, how many more times are you going to keep doing this? My friend, if you want to take back control of your mind, the first thing you need to do is break this cycle of unnecessary suffering. Look at Marcus Aurelius. When his mind overwhelmed him with negative thoughts, he would ask himself a simple yet powerful question: does this really matter? Will this still be important a year from now? Think about it. What's worrying you right now? Will it matter 12 months from now? Or 5 years from now? If the answer is no, then it's not worth wasting another minute dwelling on it. And if the answer is yes, then instead of worrying, do something about it. Because here's the key. Worrying changes nothing. Only action changes things. So the next time your mind starts writing another chapter of its horror movie, stop, breathe. Ask yourself, is this really a problem? Or is my mind just playing tricks on me? It's time to do something different, to stop imagining disasters and start building realities, to use your energy to move forward instead of wasting it on battles that never actually happen. Because life doesn't wait for you to free yourself from your fears, but it does give you the opportunity to do so in every decision you make. Lesson 11. The birth of your new self. There comes a moment in life when growth doesn't mean adding more, but letting go. And as harsh as it may sound, part of you has to die for the rest of you to be reborn. Seneca believed that progress isn't about accumulating, it's about releasing everything that isn't essential. That version of you that said yes to everything out of fear of disappointing others. The one that twisted itself to fit into places it didn't belong. The one that lived trying to please everyone except itself. All of that has to be left behind if you really want to meet the person you're capable of becoming. Swiss psychologist Carl Jung called this process individuation, the path where we shed the masks we built to be accepted and become our authentic selves. It's not a comfortable process. It means you'll often feel lost, that people around you won't always understand your choices, that you'll lose relationships that once seemed important. But it also means that, for the first time, you'll begin to build a life that's truly yours. The Stoics understood this from a different angle. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The obstacle to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." And many times that obstacle isn't outside, it's within you. Your insecurities, your fears, your craving for approval. All those inner blocks can become the soil where you grow, if you choose to walk through them instead of running away. This transformation doesn't happen in big dramatic moments. It happens in the details. Every time you say no when you used to say yes, you're burying an old part of yourself. Every time you choose peace over popularity, you're letting go of the version of you that needed validation. Every time you stay true to your values, even when you're criticized, you're making space for your new self to emerge. It's not about grand heroic gestures. It's about small, intentional decisions repeated every single day. So here's a moment of honesty. Take a look at the parts of yourself that no longer represent you. Maybe it's that constant need to please, that urge to prove yourself, that fear of being rejected. Start letting them go, one by one. Don't try to convince anyone you're changing. Just change. The right people will understand and stay. The rest will walk away. And in that process, what feels uncomfortable today will become the ground you walk on with peace. My friend, accepting that no one cares about your growth as much as you do isn't pessimism, it's power. Because the moment you stop living for other people's approval, your evolution stops depending on them. That is the true birth of your new self, when you understand that change isn't about being more likable, it's about becoming more you. Now I want you to ask yourself bravely, what part of you needs to die so your best self can be born? Write it in the comments, or leave this phrase as a promise to yourself. Today, I start letting go of what I no longer am. Lesson 12. So much stuff is stealing your peace. Imagine a machine pushed to the limit. Every light on, every button blinking, wires sparking. Bzzzt, clack, peep, peep, peep. And suddenly, boom. Overload. It burns out. That's exactly what's happening to you, even if it doesn't make that sound. Your calendar is packed with appointments, your mind is juggling 1,000 things at once, and deep down, you're about to blow. Because yes, we live in an age of overload, of noise, of stuff, of information, of endless commitments that don't fulfill you. And while you're focused on everything, the one thing you're losing is your peace. You're running around, taking care of everyone, except yourself. My friend, life is long if you know how to use it. That's not my line, it's Seneca's. But think about it. How are you supposed to make the most of life when you're buried under everything you don't need? A Stoic doesn't accumulate just to accumulate, doesn't say yes to everything, doesn't try to impress. A Stoic chooses what matters, and the rest, they let go. Because the unnecessary weighs you down. And when you're carrying too much, you end up walking in circles, exhausted, feeling like life is slipping away without ever really being lived. Look around you. Do you really need all the stuff in your house? The things you haven't used in months but keep just in case? That clothes pile taking up space? Those gadgets you haven't powered on in years? And what about your calendar? Is it full of tasks that move you closer to what matters? Or just mindless commitments that drain you? Let's not even get started on your mind, full of other people's problems, opinions you didn't ask for, guilt you inherited. Do you know who figured this out before most of us? A Japanese woman named Fumio Sasaki. She lived in a tiny Tokyo apartment overflowing with stuff. Books she never read, clothes she never wore, gadgets that just collected dust. And still, she felt something was missing. Sound familiar? That emptiness that no new phone or perfectly curated Pinterest shelf ever seems to fill. One day she'd had enough. She started letting go, literally. She gave away almost everything. She kept 3 shirts, a mug, her laptop, and silence. At first it felt crazy, but soon she noticed something she'd never felt in that apartment before. Calm. She stopped rushing, stopped comparing, stopped needing more. And in that simple life, she found a richness that didn't come from her things. It came from her. Danshari, as the Japanese call this philosophy, isn't just about tidying your house. It's about tidying your life, letting go of what weighs you down, stopping the urge to fill your days with stuff, commitments, or expectations that don't serve you. And Fumio didn't do it to be trendy. She did it because she realized she was living for everything but herself. So what are you still accumulating? Things, noise, commitments you never wanted? Or are you finally ready to start clearing out what's unnecessary so you can make space for you? Here are a few ways to start without going crazy. First, check your surroundings. Open that closet you always ignore. How many things in there haven't been touched in months? Take them out, donate them, toss them, create space. Then check your calendar. Look at the weeks ahead. Do you really need to attend all of that? Learn to say no, without guilt. Choose one afternoon just for you, to read, walk, or listen to music, without multitasking. And most of all, start letting go of the mental clutter. The worries you can't fix, the stories that aren't yours, the drama that only drains your energy. Because when you clean the outside, you also start breathing better on the inside. And only then can you focus on what really matters. On you, on your well-being, on not wasting your life on things that give you nothing in return. So now, ask yourself honestly, what could you let go of today to move closer to the peace you've been craving? Because maybe the peace you're looking for isn't that far away. Maybe it's just buried under everything you haven't had the courage to release. Lesson 13. Are you falling into the comparison trap? Be honest with yourself. How many times have you opened Instagram or TikTok and, without realizing it, ended up comparing your life to everyone else's? You see someone traveling the world while you barely leave your city. You see someone with the perfect body and think you'll never look like that. You see someone achieving incredible things and wonder why you're still stuck in the same routine. Have you ever felt like everyone else is moving forward while you're falling behind? That others seem to have life figured out while you still don't know which path to take? That someone your age already has success, money, recognition, and you don't even know where to start? And even if you don't want to admit it, deep down you feel like your life is less interesting, less successful, less of everything. But here's the key question. Is that reality? Or is it just your mind destroying you without you realizing it? And if you think this only happens to you, let me tell you about someone who truly understood the damage of comparison. Jay Shetty, the former monk turned author and content creator, talks about this in his book, Think Like a Monk. For years, he lived a life of discipline and deep reflection, and yet, when he left the monastery and returned to the modern world, he found himself falling into the trap of comparing himself to others. He saw his former classmates excelling in big companies, making money, achieving success, while he questioned whether he had made the right decision. Until one day, he changed his perspective. He started focusing on his path, his values, on what truly made him happy. And that shift led him to become one of the most influential voices in personal growth today. And if you think this is just a modern problem, look at Seneca. He saw it coming over 2,000 years ago. In his letters to Lucilius, he wrote about how senators and aristocrats were obsessed with proving who had the biggest house, the most extravagant banquets, the finest robes. But deep down, they were miserable. They always wanted more, always felt like something was missing. There was always someone with more power, more influence, more recognition. If Seneca had Instagram, he would probably post a story every morning saying, "Stop comparing yourself. Happiness isn't found in likes or luxury." And he'd be absolutely right. because what others have will never fill what you haven't built within yourself. My friend, if you want to escape the comparison trap, you need to take back control of your mind. How can you do it? First, do a digital detox. If every time you scroll through social media you end up feeling worse about yourself, it's time to set limits. Reduce your time on these platforms. Unfollow accounts that fuel comparison. And remember, what you see there isn't real life. It's an edited and filtered version of reality. Second, make a list of the good things you already have in your life. Instead of focusing on what you think you lack, take a moment to recognize everything you do have. Write down 3 things you're grateful for every day. Over time, this will train your mind to focus more on abundance than on scarcity. Third, turn comparison into inspiration. Instead of looking at someone with envy or thinking, "They have what I never will," use them as a reference. If someone has achieved something you'd like for yourself, ask, "What can I learn from their journey? How can I apply it to my own life without losing sight of my authenticity?" And remember, don't compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 35. Everyone is on their own journey, moving at their own pace. If you stop looking outward so much and start focusing on building your own path, you'll take back control of your life. Lesson 14. The reality check no one gives you. Picture this: you're stranded at sea, drifting in a small boat with no engine. At first, you stare at the horizon with hope, convinced that sooner or later someone will come rescue you. Hours pass, then days, and there's still no sign of anything, just you, the water, and silence. And in that silence, after you've screamed until your voice is gone, something happens that changes everything. You stop looking outward and start looking at your own hands. You realize that if you want to move, you'll have to row. And even if the waves are stronger than you expected, even if you move slowly, with every stroke, you grow stronger. That's exactly what the Stoics talked about. They said you can't control the wind, but you can adjust the sails. And that, my friend, makes all the difference. Because the uncomfortable truth is this: no one is coming to rescue you. It's not cruelty, it's not selfishness. It's just that everyone is too busy trying to stay afloat in their own ocean. And when you accept that, when you take full ownership of your life, you stop waiting and you start acting. Think about it for a second. How many times have you said you'll start going to the gym when someone joins you? How many times have you put off a project because you need support? Or worse, how many times have you silently hoped that someone would notice how bad you're feeling, without you having to say a word? Every time you do that, you give your power away. You hand the wheel of your boat to someone else, and while you wait for the perfect sign, life keeps moving, without you. Epictetus explained it with one simple idea: you can't choose what happens, but you can choose how you respond. And that response, that choice to move without waiting for permission, is what separates the people who change their lives from those who just dream about doing it. The truth is, no one's going to push you to take the first step. No one's going to remind you every day why you started. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner you'll stop relying on outside forces to keep going. My friend, realize this: there is no rescue mission coming. So stop waiting for the perfect sign. Take the step now, with whatever you've got, from wherever you are. Because every step you take without permission strengthens the muscle of your independence. Even if you don't have everything under control, send that message, make that call, go for a 10-minute walk. Don't do it because someone asked you to. Do it because you know the world isn't going to stop to push you forward. And every small action you take without needing approval strengthens that inner muscle we call independence. That's the reality check no one gives you. Realizing that no one's going to save you shouldn't crush you. It should ignite you. Because the moment you stop waiting for someone else to carry your life, you take ownership of it. And that, right there, is when the transformation this video is about begins. When you accept that no one cares about your path as much as you do, everything changes, because you stop staring at the horizon and finally grab the wheel. Lesson 15. Reality doesn't negotiate with you, Have you ever planned everything down to the last detail, set your goals with care, woke up with the right attitude, and suddenly something throws it all off without warning? You woke up ready to make the most of the day, fully motivated, but someone gives you bad news, something breaks, the plan changes, and you fall apart. Not because you can't keep going, but because you were expecting everything to go your way. But reality, my friend, isn't built around you. And that's where many people start wasting their lives, not because of what happens, but because they get stuck in what they can't change. Let me be clear. Reality isn't going to ask for your permission. It won't explain itself, no, because your plans don't matter to it. You can yell, complain, or close your eyes, but reality will keep moving. And the longer it takes you to accept that, the more time you'll spend thinking about everything, except yourself. Sometimes it even feels like a joke. You had your month under control, your budget sorted, your plans in place, and suddenly, bam! The car breaks down, the washing machine dies, your boss changes the schedule. What you were going to use to move forward goes straight out the window in a second. So what do? Fall apart? Get stuck in, "This isn't fair"? Because if you do, you lose your time, your energy, and your chance. The Stoics were clear about this. You can't negotiate with reality, but you can choose how you face it. Epictetus didn't need a cape or a sword to say it powerfully. Don't seek for events to happen as you wish, but wish for them to happen as they do, and you will be fine. And this isn't just for the small stuff or everyday setbacks. Think of Bethany Hamilton. You probably know her from the movie Soul Surfer. She was 13 when a shark tore off her left arm. 13. A kid, a rising star in surfing. And even then, instead of giving up, she accepted her new reality. She learned to surf with one arm, competed, won, and became an inspiration to thousands. Not because everything went right, but because she chose not to fight the tide. Wake up, my friend. It's time to stop wasting your life trying to control the uncontrollable. So how do you start? Here's a simple exercise. Draw 3 circles. In the first, write everything that's worrying you. In the second, underline what you can control from that list. And in the third, choose one action you can take today. It doesn't matter how small. What matters is that it's yours, that it puts you back in control where it counts. And meanwhile, remember, every time you accept what you can't change, you gain clarity to act on what you can. Every time you stop arguing with reality, you make room for yourself, to take care of yourself, to grow, to move forward. Because life, my friend, is like the ocean. You can't stop the waves. You can't ask it to be calm just because you need peace. But you can learn to surf, like Bethany, like so many others. And once you do, you stop living in fear of the unexpected and start living with the strength to face it. Lesson 16. Past is a map, not a prison. Let me tell you the story of a traveler who inherited an old map. It marked all the roads his family had traveled, with warnings about which paths to avoid and which were safe. For years, the traveler followed those directions exactly, never straying a single step. Every time he reached a new intersection, instead of choosing for himself, he looked at the map. And if the map said a road was dangerous, he wouldn't even dare to explore it. If it wasn't on paper, he assumed it didn't exist. Until one day, the wind ripped the map from his hands, leaving him lost. For the first time, he had to look around instead of relying on the paper. And that's when he understood. The map had never been a prison, but he had turned it into one. My friend, your past is that map. It contains everything you've lived through, the experiences that shaped you, the decisions you made. But that doesn't mean those are the only roads you can take. Let me tell you something. When I was a kid, I tried to learn how to ride a bike. I fell, scraped my knees, and came to the conclusion that I just wasn't good at it. So I never tried again. For years, I didn't even consider getting on a bike because, in my mind, I already knew it wasn't for me. Until one day, in another country, I had no choice but to ride a bike to get to my hotel. There was no other option. And what happened shocked me. I could do it, and I actually enjoyed it. In that moment, sadness hit me. How many years had I denied myself something just because in the past I had decided I wasn't capable? Not long ago, I read a quote that hit me hard. "We should use the past as a springboard, not as a sofa." Harold Macmillan said it, and if you think about it, it perfectly describes how many people turn their past into a prison they never leave. Because there are those who stay trapped in who they were, in what they did, or in what was done to them. They keep reliving mistakes, failures, or painful moments as if they were serving a life sentence. They say things like, "I've always been this way. It's too late to change," or "I can't do anything about it because this is my story." And without realizing it, they turn their past into a prison cell, one with an open door. Now tell me, what paths have you crossed off your map without even realizing it? Let's do an exercise that might change your perspective. Stand up, grab a piece of paper, and draw a map. Mark the moments that you believe have defined you, the experiences that still influence you. Then ask yourself, is this really a limitation or just a story I've told myself so many times that I've come to believe it? Now draw new paths. Think about all the roads you never considered, the ones you avoided simply because you once believed they weren't for you. Maybe there are trails that seemed too difficult before, but now, with more experience, you could walk them. Or maybe there are routes that didn't even exist back then but are now open right in front of you. The next time you think you can't change because this is just how I've always been, remember this: your past is only a map, not a prison. You can use it to learn, but never to chain yourself down. And if you want to take back control of your life, you have to dare to chart your own path. 17th lesson. You're wasting time. I hate to be the one to say it, but you're wasting time. And no, I'm not talking about that nap you took yesterday. I'm talking about your entire life. You're so busy doing what's expected of you, checking boxes, running around, replying to everyone, that you don't realize the clock keeps ticking. And you're not really there, you're just surviving, not living. If you don't believe me, do this. Open your phone and check how many hours you spent yesterday in front of a screen. Social media, news, messages, calls. How much of that time was actually for you? And how much was just to escape a routine you can't stand anymore but also don't dare to break? You don't see it yet, but you're living like you'll get endless chances. Like someday, magically, you'll finally start really living. But that day doesn't just show up. And this isn't just me saying it. Marcus Aurelius said it centuries ago. Don't act as if you were going to live 10,000 years. Death is at your elbow. As long as you live, as long as you can, be good. And that goodness begins with you, with not always putting yourself last. But don't worry, you're not alone. I've been there too. I remember a time when I justified everything with, "I just need to clear my head." But that clearing my head was really just a fancy excuse to procrastinate. Series, social media, endless distractions. Until one day I asked myself this question: if someone stole an hour from me every day, would I care? Of course I would. But the irony was, I was the one stealing it from myself every single day. No complaints. Like it didn't matter. And the truth is, every day lived on autopilot is a day you don't get back. That's why I want you to ask yourself honestly, are you ready to start thinking about yourself, not just everything else? Start small. First thing in the morning before you check your phone, repeat this one sentence. This day won't repeat. Write it down and stick it where you'll see it. Let it remind you that today counts. Also, set an alarm with a clear message. Are you using this time well? Let it go off mid-morning, after lunch, and in the evening. It'll make you pause and check if you're where you really want to be. And here's a challenge for tomorrow. Choose just one action that brings you closer to what truly matters. Read something inspiring. Call someone you love. Write even a single paragraph. One thing, but make it yours. Something that reminds you you're alive. Because, my friend, you're not here just to get through the day. You're here to choose yourself, to build yourself. And if you don't do it now, if you don't wake up today, tomorrow will be just like today. only with one less day to begin. Lesson number 18. You hold the key to your happiness. Imagine your happiness is a locked door. As long as you hold the key, you can open it whenever you want, without depending on anything or anyone. But tell me the truth. Who has that key right now? If you've handed it over to others, then you no longer decide when to be happy. Your mood now depends on whether someone approves of you, whether you get praised at work, whether they reply to your message, whether you receive the validation you're hoping for. And every time that doesn't happen, you feel like something inside you breaks. My friend, if your happiness depends on others, then you don't have control over your mind. And if you don't have control over your mind, it is destroying you. Think about it. How many times have you felt bad about things that, in reality, you shouldn't even allow to affect you? You buy something new, but if no one compliments you, you start to doubt yourself. You do a great job, but if no one acknowledges it, you feel like it wasn't worth it. You post something on social media, and if it doesn't get enough likes, you feel frustrated, even deleting it. Do you see how dangerous this is? It's like living on an emotional roller coaster without a seatbelt. If people approve of you, you rise. If they ignore or criticize you, you crash. And every day you repeat the same cycle. Epictetus made this clear centuries ago. If you depend on someone else for your happiness, you are placing your well-being in the hands of something beyond your control. And now, you have to ask yourself the key question. Are you going to keep giving away your key, or are you going to take it back? First, ask yourself what makes you happy when no one is watching. What do you truly enjoy, regardless of other people's reactions? Maybe it's writing, learning something new, creating, exploring, working out. Make a list of everything that fulfills you without needing external validation. Then, act without waiting for applause. Want to dress differently? Do it. Want to travel alone? Go. Want to start something that excites you? Start. Every time you make a decision for yourself without depending on how others react, you're taking back your key. So tell me, my friend, are you still waiting for someone else to open the door? Or have you already started looking for your key? Lesson 19. Solitude is not a punishment, it's training. Imagine you decide to go to a restaurant alone. At first, everything feels strange. You check your phone every 2 minutes, as if you're afraid someone will notice you're there without company. You feel like everyone's watching, like there's something off about eating by yourself. But as time goes on, something inside you starts to shift. You look up. You take in the place calmly. You truly taste your food. You listen to your own thoughts without interruption. What started as discomfort turns into serenity. And that's when you get it. Being alone isn't a punishment. It's an opportunity. It means you know how to be with yourself. And that's one of the greatest signs of strength there is. My friend, we live in a society that makes you believe being alone is failure. That if you don't have company, something's wrong with you. That's why so many people surround themselves with noise, empty relationships, or constant distractions. But the truth is, solitude can be the best mental gym there is. In it, you face yourself. No masks, no noise, no applause. And when you learn to be okay in that space, you become unstoppable. Seneca wouldn't have felt awkward in that restaurant. That's why he said, "The greatest company a man can have is his own mind." And it's funny, because in a world that runs from silence and solitude, that idea almost sounds revolutionary. But the Stoics knew something most people forget. If you don't know how to be with yourself, you'll always depend on others to feel okay. And depending on others for your well-being is the fastest path to frustration. Solitude shouldn't be an accident that happens when no one's around. It should be a habit you choose, on purpose. Start small. Go for a walk without headphones. Have a coffee without company. Set aside time each day just to think without distractions. At first, it might feel uncomfortable, sure, but over time it becomes your greatest strength. And once that discomfort fades, something powerful happens. You stop needing constant validation, you become harder to manipulate, and you grow more resistant to outside opinion. Solitude, when understood properly, doesn't isolate you. It trains you for freedom. It prepares you to make decisions without the fear of disappointing others. It helps you build a healthy relationship with yourself. And from there, every external relationship improves. Because when you know how to be alone, you no longer seek company out of need, but out of choice. The Stoics didn't fear solitude because they knew it was where the soul grows strong. And it's there that you embrace one of the most liberating truths. No one is going to care for you like you will. When you accept that reality, when you understand that no one values your peace as much as you do, solitude stops feeling like punishment. It becomes a training ground where your clarity, your discipline, and your real inner power are forged. Lesson 20. Be careful what you say about yourself. Imagine this. You wake up, put on a pair of invisible headphones, and for the rest of the day, there's just one voice playing, non-stop. And what it says isn't kind. You're a mess. Look at how awful you look. You screwed up again. You're never going to make it. That voice follows you to work, comes with you to the gym, even slips into your shower. And by the time night falls, no wonder you feel drained, frustrated, or empty. My friend, that voice isn't your enemy. It's you. And the worst part is, you're doing this to yourself, without even noticing. But now picture this instead. What if, instead of that critical voice, the one in your headphones was Epictetus? A firm voice saying, "Do what depends on you without complaining. You're stronger than you think." Wouldn't the day feel completely different? He made it clear long ago. No person can harm you without your consent. And while that may sound extreme, the truth is, a lot of the harm starts with how you speak to yourself. Let's be clear. Every time you say, "I'm a disaster," because you made a small mistake, that's not humility. That's planting seeds of insecurity. Every time you look in the mirror with contempt or downplay a compliment, you're feeding that toxic voice. And the more you listen to it, the more control it has. I recently heard an episode of Patri Psicologa's podcast with Christina Miter. During her "Girl, Don't Complicate Things" tour, they said it straight. If you wouldn't talk to your best friend like that, then why do you talk to yourself that way every day? Do you really think you can build a meaningful life if your inner dialogue sounds like a battlefield? Let's change that. First, identify one of those negative phrases you keep repeating. It could be, "I'm lazy. I always screw things up. I'm just not consistent." Write it down. Seeing it outside your head is already a step forward. Second, replace it with something fairer. You don't need to go all in with, "I'm amazing and perfect." You won't believe it anyway. But you can say, "I'm learning to be more consistent," or "I make mistakes, but I keep going." The goal is for that voice to start sounding more like an ally and less like an enemy. Third, create a personal Stoic mantra to start your day. Something short that reminds you who you are when things get tough. For example, "Today I act with strength, even if I doubt." Or, "I can't control everything, but I can control how I respond." Write it down, stick it on your mirror. Let it be louder than the thought that keeps holding you back. And when you mess up, because you will, like all of us, pause for a second and ask yourself, would I talk this way to someone I care about? If the answer's no, don't say it to yourself either. So tell me, what phrase have you been repeating without realizing it? Share it in the comments, and let us know what you'll replace it with. Maybe your new phrase will inspire someone else in this community, because no one should have to live with headphones full of self-hate, especially not when the voice behind it is their own. Lesson 21. You're alive, but are you present? Have you ever arrived home, turned off the engine, and realized you have no idea how you got there? Or someone asks you what you did on Tuesday and you have to really think about it? Ever felt like the days just flash by, and you're just crossing things off a list? If you said yes, that's not random. You're on autopilot, breathing, walking, producing, but not here. You're alive, yes, but you're not present. And when you're not present, it's easy to forget whose life this was supposed to be in the first place. Picture this. You're at the movies. Big screen, surround sound, a story that stirs your soul. But you're staring at your phone, notification after notification. Every now and then you glance up, there's some action, a character crying, an explosion, but you have no idea what's going on. The lead character dies, and you barely notice. That's how you're going through life. That's how so many people are wasting it, connected to everything except themselves. And you're not the only one. Some people spend half their lives chasing results, until one day they realize they don't even know who they are. Diego Dreyfus puts it bluntly, "You're so focused on producing, you forgot to live." And he's right. Because what's the point of achieving anything if you're not even there to feel it? If you're so caught up in the doing that you forget to be. Marcus Aurelius didn't have a phone or Netflix or a cinema to go to, but he knew exactly what it meant to live distracted. That's why he wrote, "Each person's life is made up of the present moment. The rest is uncertain or beyond your control." He had his own battles, responsibilities, noise, and he understood that if you don't anchor yourself to the now, life slips away. Now imagine for a second how your life would be if, instead of running on autopilot, you started truly being present. If every free moment you used it to move closer to what you dream of. If when you eat, you choose what nourishes you. If when you're with yourself, you stop criticizing and start listening. Do you see how much you could build if you stopped giving your energy away to what isn't really you? Do you want that? Then let's try something. Keep your phone out of sight for at least 1 hour a day. Not on the table, not in your pocket, don't let it tempt you. Then when you're with someone, practice what's called active presence. Look them in the eyes, listen, don't think about your response, just listen. And if you're alone, do the same with yourself. Breathe, sit. Ask yourself a real question. How am I? And don't run away. Stay there, even if it's uncomfortable, even if you don't like what you feel. Because what's the point of having more time if you're not even in the time you already have? The worst thing isn't living a short life. The worst is being here and not showing up in your own life. Lesson 22. It's not what happens, it's how you see it. Tell me something. How do you react when life changes your plans at the last second? Imagine this. You've been looking forward to eating at your favorite restaurant all day. You can already taste the food. Picture that first bite, the pleasure of enjoying exactly what you wanted. You arrive and it's closed for renovations. What do? You could get upset, complain about your bad luck, and let it ruin your day. Or you could see it as the perfect excuse to try something new, discover a different place, and who knows, maybe even find your new favorite spot. Or imagine you have to speak in public. You've rehearsed every word, every pause, every gesture. But when the moment comes, your mind goes blank. Panic rises, the silence feels endless, and you think everything is ruined. But maybe it's not. Maybe it's the perfect moment to improvise, connect with your audience in a more natural way, and prove that you don't need a perfect script to shine. Here's the truth, my friend. It's not what happens that defines your life, but how you choose to see it. Think of it this way. Your mind is like a pair of glasses. If they're dirty and scratched, everything will look blurry, dark, and distorted. But if you clean them and adjust them properly, you'll realize reality is much clearer than you thought. Epictetus said it centuries ago. Men are not disturbed by things, but by the views they take of them. And if you think this is just a philosophical theory, wait until you hear this story. In the early years of the Beatles, when they were still forming as a band, there was a guitarist named Pete Best. He toured with them, played alongside them, and was part of what was about to become the biggest band in history. But one day, without warning, he was kicked out. They replaced him with another guitarist, and his chance to be part of a worldwide phenomenon vanished in an instant. He could have easily sunk into bitterness and resentment. Imagine it, watching them rise to stardom without you, filling stadiums, being played everywhere, while you fade into obscurity. How would you have taken it? Years later, Pete Best said something surprising. Getting kicked out of the Beatles was the best thing that ever happened to me. Why? Because it led him to a life that truly fulfilled him. Having a family, living without the chaos of fame, and playing music purely for the love of it, without the pressure of the industry. Instead of being trapped in what he lost, he chose to see what he had gained. And here's the big question: how can you do the same in your life? First, redefine the problem with questions. Marcus Aurelius did this every time he faced a challenge. Instead of getting caught up in the emotions of the moment, he would ask himself, is this really a disaster or just a new situation I have to face? What opportunity is hiding in this that I haven't seen yet? If I were telling someone about this in 10 years, would it still seem like such a big deal? Second, use the observer exercise. When you feel stuck in a problem, step out of your own head for a moment and look at it as if it were happening to someone else. What would you say? What advice would you give if your best friend were going through this instead of you? Because, interestingly, when we look at problems from the outside, everything seems simpler. Chaos becomes order, emotions settle, and solutions appear. So, my friend, the next time you feel like the world is against you, remember this: you can't control everything that happens, but you can decide how you see it. And that's the difference between letting your mind destroy you or taking control of your life. Lesson 23. Your mind is your home. Who do you let in? Imagine this. Someone walks into your house and starts yelling, "That painting is ugly. This couch is so uncomfortable." Then they grab a pastry, eat it, and throw the wrapper on the floor without a second thought. You're useless. Pick up that trash. But they don't stop there. They keep criticizing every corner, mocking your choices, pointing out everything they think is wrong with your home. Would you let them stay? Of course not. You'd throw them out immediately. Now tell me, why do you allow those same messages to enter your mind and stay there? Think about all the voices you carry inside. Criticism from the past, insecurities, judgments that aren't even yours, but things other people said. You've heard them for so long that you don't even question them anymore. Marcus Aurelius understood this well. His words, "The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts," weren't just a nice idea. They were a survival strategy. He filtered what he allowed into his mind like the guardian of his own fortress. He knew that if he filled his head with negativity and unnecessary worries, his mind would betray him before any enemy could. Today, we have an even harder challenge. It's not just what people say to us, it's what we consume. Cal Newport, author of Deep Work, talks about how overexposure to distractions weakens our mental clarity. But it's not just about notifications or social media. What truly steals your peace isn't the noise outside, it's what you allow to enter your mind. Picture this. You wake up feeling energized, ready to make the most of your day. But without realizing it, you leave the door of your mind wide open, and they start coming in. The criticism from that teacher who told you you'd never go far. The opinion of a friend who mocked your project. The doubts from your family about the path you want to take. All of it settles in your head, and without realizing it, you start acting as if it were true. You look in the mirror and don't see someone capable. You see someone who is not enough. You try to move through your day, but everything feels heavier. You make mistakes, get frustrated, sabotage yourself. Not because you can't do it, but because you're carrying words that were never yours to begin with. So how do you filter what you allow into your mind? First, activate your mental garbage detector. It works like this. Every time a negative thought enters your head, beep, 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 alarm activated. If after hearing, reading, or remembering something you feel worse than before, delete it from your life. It's that simple. Then, use the annoying neighbor test. Ask yourself, if this thought were a person, would I let them into my house? If the answer is no, ignore it. If you wouldn't give the keys to your home to someone who only comes to tear you down, don't give them to thoughts that do the same, because in the end, your mind is your home, and whatever you let in, stays. So now you know. Shut the door on anything that doesn't serve you, and make space only for what strengthens you. If you want to take back control of your life, start by taking back control of your mind. Because until you clean up what's inside, everything you try to build will keep crumbling down. Lesson 24. From begging for attention to building your own value. Picture a sculptor locked away in a basement. No audience, no cameras, not a single round of applause. Just him, his chisel, and a block of stone. Day after day, he repeats the same motion. Polishing, carving, correcting every little detail. Sometimes he wonders if it's worth it, because no one sees what he's doing. Sometimes he questions if his effort matters at all without recognition. But he keeps going. And one day, without even realizing it, the stone stops being stone. It becomes a masterpiece, shaped by every hour of his silent labor. The irony is, even if no one ever saw it, he would know what he accomplished. And that is worth more than any attention. And if you think about it, that's exactly what the Stoics taught. True value isn't found in external recognition. It's built in the silent work you shape within yourself. For them, inner work was like sculpting the soul, blow by blow, habit by habit, until your actions reflect your character. And the most powerful part is that this transformation doesn't need witnesses. It's enough that you know you're growing. If only we were more like that sculptor. But most of the time, we spend far too long worrying about who's watching, who's validating us, who's telling us we're doing a good job. And without realizing it, we start building ourselves around the gaze of others. If there are cheers, we keep going. If there's silence, we stop. But once you accept that no one cares about your path as much as you do, everything begins to change. You realize your value isn't measured by how many eyes are watching, but by the consistency with which you keep building, even when no one's watching at all. The Stoics believed that virtue should be practiced in silence. Epictetus said there's no need to explain your philosophy, just live it. And to live it means exactly this: to keep working on yourself even when there's no validation, no praise, even when it seems like no one cares. If your self-worth depends on external compliments, it will collapse the moment they disappear. But if you build it from the inside, it becomes solid as a rock. My friend, if you also want to stop begging for attention, ask yourself an uncomfortable question. Would you keep doing what you're doing if no one ever knew? If the answer is no, then maybe your motivation isn't as genuine as you thought. Start shifting that, bit by bit. Read to grow, not to tell others about it. Work out for your health, not for likes. Learn for the joy of improving, not to prove something. Every action you take without needing recognition is a brick in the foundation of your inner strength. And yes, at first it may seem like the world doesn't notice. Your progress might go unseen. Your efforts might go uncelebrated. But that's where real strength lies, in not needing applause to keep moving forward. Because when you stop begging for attention and start creating your own value, you discover something liberating. You no longer need others to validate you to know your worth. And that, my friend, is the moment your life truly starts to transform. Because when you realize that no one cares about your growth as much as you do, you stop chasing approval and start building greatness. Lesson number 25. Uncertainty is not your enemy. You probably know someone who needs to have everything planned down to the last detail. That person who panics if they don't have full control over every aspect of a situation. If there's a trip, they need to know the exact departure time, where they'll eat, what they'll do at every moment. If there's an important meeting, they have to prepare every word in advance. If life changes their plans, their mind goes into chaos. Now tell me, how many times have you done the same? Your mind tells you that you need certainty, that the unknown is dangerous. But what you don't realize is that while you obsess over avoiding uncertainty, you become a prisoner of predictability. Marcus Aurelius understood this well when he said, "The art of living is more like wrestling than dancing." What a powerful statement, don't you think? Think about it. Dancing follows a fixed rhythm, a choreography you must learn and repeat. Everything is planned. Nothing is left to chance. But wrestling is the opposite. It's unpredictable, chaotic, full of unexpected turns. You can't rehearse every move in advance. You can only adapt and respond. And which one do you think life actually resembles? Uncertainty, of course. And do you know why? Because it's what allows you to grow. Tim Ferriss, in his book The 4-Hour Workweek, talks about this. He explains that most people never take risks because they're terrified of what might happen if things go wrong. But when you accept that the future will always be uncertain and learn to navigate it, you become free. Now, picture this situation. You're presented with an incredible opportunity, a new job, a project you've always wanted to pursue, a decision that could change your life. But instead of excitement, the first thing you feel is fear. What if it goes wrong? What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? This is where 2 Stoic techniques can help you regain control. The Stoics practiced a simple yet powerful exercise, imagining the worst possible scenario. If you're afraid of changing jobs, ask yourself, what's the worst that could happen? That you don't adapt, that you get fired, that you have to look for another job. Now ask yourself, would that really be the end of the world? Most of the time, when we analyze the worst-case scenario, we realize that we could handle it. That what seems like a catastrophe in our minds is actually not that serious in reality. Beyond that, you must learn to accept whatever comes, instead of obsessing over what might happen. Why waste energy worrying about the future? You can plan, prepare, and do your best, but can you ever be certain of what's going to happen? Some things simply don't depend on you, and that's okay. If you spend your life fighting uncertainty, you will never be able to enjoy the present. Think about it. Some of the best things in your life have come when you least expected them. The people who have had the greatest impact on your journey, the moments that changed you the most, the opportunities you never saw coming, all of it came from uncertainty. If you had known exactly how everything would unfold, if every step had been planned, life would be boring, predictable, without any excitement. And thank goodness it doesn't work that way. So instead of resisting the unknown, use it to your advantage. Uncertainty is not what's destroying you, it's your fear of it. The more you fight to control every detail, the more you become a prisoner of your own mind. Let yourself be surprised, learn to adapt, and start living without fear of what might happen. Because taking back control of your life doesn't mean having all the answers. It means learning to move forward even when you don't have them. Lesson 26. Do what's right and forget about the reward. We live surrounded by messages pushing us to chase likes, trophies, applause. Everything has to come with a quick reward, a medal, recognition. But what if I told you that the most meaningful actions are the ones done in silence, when no one's watching? What if I told you that you're letting life pass you by because you're always staring at the finish line instead of enjoying the road? And yes, it's hard, I know. Because we've been trained to act only when there's something to gain. But think about this. Marcus Aurelius, carrying the weight of an empire, once wrote something as simple and powerful as this: do not act for recognition. Do what is right, what is necessary. That's what defines a Stoic. Someone who doesn't need applause to do what's right. They do it just because. Because they know living with virtue is what truly leads to inner peace. Do you really think that if Marcus Aurelius lived today, he'd be filming himself giving money to someone on the street just to post it online with dramatic music? Or waiting for applause after returning a lost wallet? Of course not. Because when you do the right thing out of conviction, you don't need a stage or an audience. You do it, and keep walking, because the real reward isn't out there. It's in who you're becoming on the inside. Picture this. You're rushing up the stairs to your apartment, head full of to-dos, running late. And right there, you see your neighbor struggling with some heavy boxes. He doesn't ask, doesn't say anything, but it's obvious he needs help. What do? Keep walking because you're in a hurry? Or because he won't thank you anyway? Or do you stop and help him knowing it's the right thing, even if no one sees it? Here's something you can do today. Shift your focus. Stop obsessing over the outcome and come back to the process. If you're training, value the effort, not just the perfect body. If you're learning something new, celebrate each small step, not just the certificate at the end. Write it down, acknowledge it for yourself. One sentence at the end of the day, a simple ritual, a moment just for you. Today I did this, and even if no one saw it, I did. And don't forget to celebrate those efforts. Did you make it through the day without snapping at someone, even though you were on edge? You deserve a quiet walk just for you. Did you help someone without being asked? Treat yourself to a good dinner, without guilt. You don't need the world to reward you to know you're growing. Acting with virtue is like planting seeds in a garden. You may not see the fruits right away, but over time they'll bloom. So, my friend, stop living for the applause. Do what you know is right, because there, in the quiet, is where your true transformation begins. Lesson 27. Other people don't think like you. Have you ever felt frustrated because someone doesn't understand something that to you is completely obvious? Well, obvious isn't the same for everyone. It happened to me once with a friend. We were talking about helping someone on the street, and to me the answer was clear. If you can help someone in need, you do it. No second thoughts. But his response left me frozen. If that person ended up like that, they must have done something wrong, he said, with a level of indifference that shook me to my core. I felt heat rising in my chest, a mix of anger and disbelief. I couldn't believe what I had just heard. How could he be so insensitive? I tried reasoning with him, gave him examples, explained that life isn't that simple, that anyone can end up in a bad situation. But he stood his ground. The conversation got more and more tense. I kept insisting, he kept shutting down. Until at some point, we weren't even talking anymore. We were crashing into each other like two trains heading in opposite directions. And the worst part? I couldn't let it go. That thought kept eating away at me. How can he not see it? That night I went home feeling drained, frustrated, like I had lost something more than just an argument. And then it hit me. The problem wasn't that he thought differently. The problem was that I expected him to see the world through my eyes, when he had his own. Imagine Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome, trying to get everyone to think like him. There he is in the Senate, with all his stoic patience, explaining that the only thing we can control is our mind, that virtue is the most important thing. And in front of him, a group of senators more concerned about their wealth and pleasures than philosophy. He must have thought to himself, how can they be so blind? Why don't they get it? But instead of accepting that everyone has their own way of seeing the world, he keeps trying. So day after day, he continues explaining Stoic principles, convinced that, at some point, they'll all understand. But of course, reality is different. One senator yawns, another stares at the ceiling, and someone is probably thinking about what they'll have for dinner that night. Sounds ridiculous, right? Marcus Aurelius would never have wasted his time like that. He understood that everyone acts according to their own worldview, and that trying to change people's minds is a battle that only drains you. So if he, an emperor, didn't fall into that trap, why should you? Imagine this. You want to help a family member. You see them stuck and you know they could improve their life if they just made a few changes. So with the best intentions, you try to explain it to them. But their response surprises you. They shut down, tell you that life should be easier, that they're not the ones who need to change. The world is. You argue, insist, try to explain it another way. But the more you talk, the more resistance you meet. So, what can you do to accept that not everyone thinks like you? First, understand that not everyone is at the same stage of their journey. Maybe you've already been through that phase where you made excuses and you realized you needed to change. But they haven't. Second, realize that you don't need to convince anyone. You don't have to win the argument or prove you're right. Say what you think, calmly, without expectations. Sometimes the best way to help someone isn't by pushing them to change, but by planting the seed and letting it grow at its own pace. Maybe they'll ignore you today, but a year from now, when life hits them hard, they'll remember your words. And here's something key. Choose your battles. Ask yourself if it's really worth continuing the argument, or if you're just exhausting yourself over something beyond your control. You can't waste your energy trying to change someone who doesn't want to change. All you'll achieve is frustration, helplessness, and, worst-case scenario, damaging your relationship with that person. Because at the end of the day, the problem isn't that others think differently. It's that you expect them to see life the way you do. And that's a trap that will only lead you to frustration. Lesson 28. Rejection as a compass. My friend, don't get it twisted. Not every no means you're not good enough. The Stoics never saw rejection as failure. They understood it as a signal, a necessary redirection pulling you away from the wrong path and pushing you toward the one that's truly yours. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What stands in the way becomes the way," and that idea changes everything. Because every time the world says no to you, it's not closing the door to your destiny. It's pointing you toward it. Think about it for a second. Walt Disney was fired from a newspaper for lacking creativity. Later, over 300 people told him that his idea to build a theme park was ridiculous. He was rejected again and again. Most people would have given up, but he didn't. He kept going, and today, millions of people walk through the gates of that very park every year. What looked like an obstacle wasn't a judgment of his worth. It was a map. Rejection was telling him, "Keep going, but not here." Your path is somewhere else, and the same thing happens with you. You've probably sent a message that was never answered, or submitted a resume and never got a call back. Maybe you gave your all in a relationship that ended with a, "It's not you, it's me." In that moment, it hurts. Of course it does. The silence hurts. The emptiness hurts. The feeling of not being enough hurts. But if you really think about it, that door slamming in your face isn't a verdict on your value. It's a sign that that door wasn't built for you. Rejection can be one of the harshest teachers, but also one of the wisest. It forces you to recalibrate, to rethink your efforts, to look in directions you may never have considered. Every no can be a compass, if you choose to see it that way. When you feel like the world is turning its back on you, pause for a second and ask yourself 3 questions. What can I learn from this? What part of me needs to grow stronger? And where is this no trying to point me? If you change your mindset, rejection stops being the enemy and becomes the teacher. It's no longer a reminder of what you didn't get, but a clue about where your growth is waiting. And this is where Stoicism becomes more than just a philosophy. It becomes a real, practical tool. Because accepting that no one cares about your path as much as you do isn't giving up. It's setting yourself free. When you understand that the doors that close don't define your worth, you stop taking rejection personally and start seeing it as a clear signal of where to focus your energy next. Marcus Aurelius didn't write those words to decorate a book. He wrote them to remind us that the path is never a straight line. It's a series of detours we have to learn to follow. So next time you face rejection, don't fall apart. Be grateful for the clarity that no is giving you. Because if you learn to read rejection like a map, you'll never feel lost again. And you'll finally understand that the world doesn't need to applaud your path, because the only person who needs to be clear about it is you. Lesson 29. My friend, your mind is like an unleashed dog. If you don't train it, if you don't hold it tight, it'll bolt at the first sound it hears. And be careful, because when that happens, it doesn't just bite whoever's nearby, it bites you. In the form of sabotaging thoughts, recurring insecurities, mental stories that convince you everything's against you. And the worst part? You don't even notice. You think you're living, but really, you're just surviving the noise in your own head. You can feel it in the little things. When the alarm goes off and you think, 5 more minutes. When you look in the mirror and only see flaws. When someone doesn't reply and your brain comes up with 10 reasons why they've stopped caring. That's your untrained mind. A mind that without discipline drags you down. That turns small problems into storms. And the hardest truth of all is that you're the one who pays the price. With a life that gets stuck, delayed, wasted. Marcus Aurelius had the weight of an entire empire on his shoulders. Can you imagine that? Life or death decisions, wars, plagues, betrayal. And still, he managed to write something as simple as, "Happiness depends on yourself, on how you judge what happens." Do you think he reached that level of calm by magic? That he woke up every morning with peace of mind and an imperial smile? No, my friend. He didn't have a stoic wand. What he did have was a habit, a daily practice, a constant mental workout. Because he understood something many people still don't. It's not about things going right. It's about being able to see what's happening and choose how you interpret it. And that, even though it sounds simple, is one of the greatest superpowers you can develop. But it doesn't come on its own. You have to work at it. Day after day, like sharpening an invisible sword, like training yourself to turn every blow into a lesson. Training your mind should be as basic as brushing your teeth. That's exactly what psychologist Nacho Rora says. Do you wait for a cavity before picking up a toothbrush? No, right? At least I hope not. So don't wait until you're broken inside to start taking care of your mind. Because the longer you go without training it, the louder that inner noise gets, and the more power it gains over you. So here's what you need to do. First, build one small daily habit, 3 minutes of writing, morning or night. That's it. Ask yourself, what thoughts limited me today? And answer honestly. Also learn to filter what's polluting your inner space. Close your eyes for a moment and picture this. You're in a room filled with black smoke. That smoke is your negative thoughts, your fears, your doubts, your I can't. You breathe it in without meaning to. It clouds your mind. But here's the key. Now imagine that with each breath, that smoke starts to shift. As it enters through your nose, it slows down, turns gray, softer. And once it reaches your lungs, it's no longer black, it's white, clean. Then you breathe it out, forcefully, as if you were pushing out everything that's been poisoning you. Do that every time chaos starts creeping in. You're not running away from your thoughts. You're training your mind not to swallow emotional garbage without a filter. You're transforming it, sending it back out, purer. Because a trained mind doesn't fill with noise. It clears itself with intention. Yes, your mind can be your worst enemy, but it can also be your greatest ally. And if you're letting it dominate you, if you're reacting to everything, letting your emotions take the wheel, my friend, you're not living. You're just surviving. Are you really going to keep giving all that power to something that isn't even you? Lesson 30. The power of explaining nothing. Let me ask you something. How many times have you tried to explain a decision that didn't need explaining? How many times have you given a dozen reasons just to justify a simple no, only because you were afraid of disappointing someone? Or spent hours overthinking how to explain a change in your life so others would get it? It's exhausting, isn't it? And the worst part is, no matter how well you explain it, many people still won't understand you. If Marcus Aurelius were here and saw you bending over backwards for everyone's approval, he'd probably smile calmly and say, "Relax, you don't need a jury to live your life." And he'd be right, because what you do doesn't need to convince anyone. It just needs to make sense to you. The uncomfortable truth is, no one cares as much about your path as you do. And when you finally accept that, you stop wasting your energy chasing their validation. Speaker Les Brown often says, you don't have to convince anyone that you're worthy. Your value doesn't need approval. And he's right. We spend half our lives trying to make others understand our choices, explaining every step to avoid judgment or confusion. But every unnecessary explanation is energy lost. Every time you justify your decisions to get approval, you drift further away from what you truly want. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Stop debating what a good man should be. Just be one." The same goes for your decisions. Don't explain them, live them. Don't defend your dreams, chase them. Don't try to make everyone understand your boundaries, just uphold them. The people who need to understand will get it through your actions, not your words. My friend, a huge part of your power gets unlocked the moment you decide you don't need to explain every move. If you choose to step away from a relationship that isn't right for you, you don't owe anyone a speech. If you switch careers, you don't have to convince anyone it makes sense. And if you decide to live your life differently from what others expect, there's no need to ask for permission. Every time you choose silence over explanation, you reinforce your autonomy. Try it. Next time you feel the urge to justify yourself, pause. Breathe. Remind yourself that your life doesn't need to be understood by everyone. What matters is you knowing why you do what you do. And over time, you'll notice something interesting. People start to respect you more when you act with clarity than when you try to explain everything. That's where your real power lies, knowing you don't need to be understood to move forward. Accepting that no one cares as deeply about your decisions as you do isn't negative. It's freeing. Because when you stop living to be understood, you start living to be authentic. And in that moment, your life stops revolving around approval and starts revolving around you. Lesson 31. If it doesn't serve you, let it go. They say a good farmer knows that to have a plentiful harvest, they must take care of the soil. But imagine one who does the opposite. One day, a farmer set out at dawn with his mule, ready to collect what he had sown. But along the way, he saw a large rock and thought, I might need this for something. He loaded it onto his cart and kept going. Further ahead, he found a dry log and said to himself, this might come in handy in the future. So he threw that in too. Then he saw an old broken plow by the side of the road and thought, you never know, better keep it. And when he finally tried to load his sack of wheat, the fruit of his hard work, what do you think happened? There was no room for it. He had filled his cart with so many useless things that there was no space left for what truly mattered. Now tell me, how many times have you done the same with your mind? If you're carrying grudges from years ago, toxic thoughts that serve no purpose, or mistakes you keep punishing yourself for, how do you expect to move forward? When you cling to those negative thoughts and resentments, your mind becomes your worst enemy. It's like that old piece of clothing you never wear but keep just in case. In the end, it not only takes up space in your closet, but also prevents you from making room for something new, something that actually serves you. And the worst part? You don't even realize how much space you're losing until you need to make room for something better. If there's someone you should listen to on this topic, it's Guy Winch. This psychologist explains it so clearly that it makes you stop and ask yourself, why do I keep doing this? According to Winch, the brain prefers to carry the weight of what's familiar rather than face the unknown. Why? Because letting go of something, even something harmful, scares us. It makes us feel vulnerable. But here's the key point. Holding on to what hurts you doesn't protect you. It just keeps you trapped. Sound familiar? I'm sure you know someone who still gets angry about not being invited to a birthday party 10 years ago. Or someone who still holds a grudge over a stupid comment made at a party. And what have they gained from it? Nothing. Just unnecessary baggage. And here's the truth. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It means freeing yourself. If something is still weighing on you after all this time, if you keep replaying a mistake, a betrayal, or a bad decision, ask yourself, is it really worth carrying this any longer? And remember what Seneca said. It is absurd to want to live in the past, unwise to live in the future, and impossible to live in the present. Now, let's do a Stoic exercise. Go outside, somewhere you can connect with something bigger than your thoughts. Find a leaf on the ground. Don't pluck one. Just take one that has already fallen. Now, with a pen, or even just your finger if you have nothing else, write on that leaf a thought that has been weighing you down. Something you've been carrying even though it no longer serves you. Do it without fear, because in a few minutes, that burden will no longer be yours. And finally, let it go. Watch it drift away. That is exactly what you need to do with the thoughts that are draining you. If you keep clinging to what weighs you down, your mind will keep consuming you little by little, like a drop of water slowly eroding stone. You can't expect to move forward while holding on to what is sinking you, and the longer you hold on, the more power it has to destroy you from within. If you truly want to take back control of your life, start by letting go of everything that has been holding you back. Only then will you be able to move forward. Lesson 32. Your environment shapes your destiny. Have you ever felt like no matter how hard you try, you just can't move forward? You're giving it your all, but something keeps pulling you down. Maybe the problem isn't you. Maybe it's what's around you. Because yes, my friend, sometimes it's not a lack of motivation. It's too much dead weight. It's like trying to stand up from a chair, but someone tied your shoelaces to the legs without you noticing. You push, you struggle, and you don't understand why you can't move, until you finally realize that something, or someone, is holding you back. Seneca knew this well when he wrote, "Avoid those who make you feel like your life is worthless." Harsh, but true. Because sometimes the thing that drains you most isn't what happens in your life. It's the people who stay in it just to wear you down. A Stoic doesn't go through life putting up with everyone. They choose, they observe, they decide. Because they know their peace is too valuable to hand over to just anyone who shows up with a storm. And I say this from experience. There was a time in my life when I let it happen too. I needed support. I was dealing with a serious health issue. And when I tried opening up to certain people, everything went sideways. They'd change the subject as fast as they could. They'd hit me with a "don't be so dramatic," or straight up call me a whiner. Their problems, their drama, their needs were always the priority. I was just there to listen, to do favors, to be available. But when I needed something, they vanished, or worse, made me feel guilty for asking. It took time to see it. But once I did, everything started to shift. I realized I couldn't keep surrounding myself with people who made me feel small, selfish, or weak, just for thinking about my own needs. And if you're in that same place, always giving, never receiving, then it's time to change your environment and finally give yourself the space you deserve. First, take a calm look at the people who do inspire you, the ones who listen without judging, who genuinely cheer you on. Surround yourself with them. Let them take up more space in your life. Second, start cutting back, without guilt, on the ones who always have a complaint, who shut you down when you talk about your dreams, or who constantly turn every conversation back to themselves. No, you don't need to keep putting up with that just because of habit or obligation. Third, go out and find new connections. These days, there are communities, groups, courses, and spaces full of people with values that match yours. People who lift you up, who inspire you, who remind you who you are when you forget. Because here's the truth. You can be doing everything right, have talent, have goals, have discipline, but if your environment doesn't support you, you'll stay stuck. And yes, you'll keep wasting your life, giving it away to people who don't even see its worth. So ask yourself, are you surrounded by people who lift you up or drag you down? Remember, my friend, your environment can be the push you need or the anchor that holds you back. And it's up to you to decide, do you stay tied down or do you break free and move forward? And if right now you're feeling alone in this, tell us in the comments. This community exists for moments like that, to lift you up when you need it most and remind you that you don't have to keep carrying what's sinking you. Here, there is space for you. Lesson number 33. The silent respect your presence commands. Imagine a Stoic walking into the room. No crown on his head, no shining armor, and yet all eyes turn toward him. He doesn't say a word, but his presence weighs more than any speech. He walks slowly, with the calm of someone who has nothing to prove. He's not trying to stand out, and that's exactly why he does. He's not trying to please, and yet he earns respect. There's something in the way he holds your gaze, in how he listens more than he speaks, in how he takes up space without trying, that makes the whole room go quiet. That's the effect of someone who no longer depends on external approval. Someone who doesn't measure their worth by applause, but by the consistency between what they think, say, and do. And when you understand this, you realize that real power isn't being heard by everyone. It's not needing to shout to be heard. A Stoic doesn't need to convince the world of his strength. His mere way of being makes it obvious. As Seneca said, mastering yourself is the greatest empire, and there's nothing truer. Because when you learn to govern your impulses, to restrain your reactions, to act from calm rather than chaos, The world starts responding to you differently. You no longer feel the need to justify every choice or explain every step. You move with purpose, speak with intention, choose with clarity. And that inner calm, which once seemed like something small, becomes a magnet that draws respect without ever needing to demand it. My friend, when you stop living based on what others think, your energy changes. You're no longer trying to convince anyone of your worth because you know it. You no longer need to prove anything because your presence already does. And that kind of silent respect, the one that isn't asked for or negotiated, is far more powerful than any external recognition. Train yourself in restraint. Don't respond to every provocation, even when you're right. Don't explain every decision, even when you're tempted to. Don't share every achievement just to hear the applause. Learn to enjoy progress quietly. Watch how the people around you begin to treat you differently when your actions speak louder than your words. The less you feel the need to prove, the more powerful you become. Accepting that no one cares about your path as much as you do isn't giving up. It's taking control. Because when your validation no longer depends on how others see you, you stop living to impress and start living to build. Your presence changes. The way you move changes. And what once was a constant craving for approval transforms into a quiet certainty that demands respect. And maybe that, exactly that, is what you've been missing all along. Not more noise, not more explanations, not more proving. Just presence. Just alignment. Just you, in your highest form, moving forward without needing anyone to applaud it. And when you reach that point, when you understand that respect isn't something you chase, it's something you project, you discover the foundation of a life that no longer depends on anyone else. Lesson 34. The freedom of needing nothing. Marcus Aurelius was the most powerful man of his time. He ruled a vast empire, commanded armies, and made decisions that shifted the course of history. And yet, he wrote a sentence that shatters every illusion of control. You have power over your mind, not over external events. He didn't say it from the throne, but from a place of deep awareness. Because he had lost everything, many times, friends, battles, even his own children. And still he stood. Not because the world was on his side, but because his strength didn't depend on it. My friend, this is where the entire path leads, to a place where you no longer need anyone or anything to change in order to be okay. Where applause is no longer your fuel, because your engine comes from within. Where you don't need understanding to validate your decisions, because you trust your own judgment. Where you don't wait for company to keep moving because you know how to walk alone. And when you reach that place, everything shifts. Life stops being a fight to control what's out there and becomes the art of mastering what's inside. That kind of independence doesn't make you cold or distant. It makes you free. Free from the expectations that used to weigh you down. Free from the constant need for approval. Free from the fear of losing what was never really yours. And that freedom isn't something you gain all at once. It's built slowly, step by step, through small daily decisions. Start practicing it in the simple things. Celebrate your wins, even if no one claps. Do it because you know what they cost you, not because you need recognition. Value your choices without asking for permission to make them. Trust that even if others don't understand, they're right for you. Keep chasing your goals, even if the world doesn't get them. The more you're able to hold yourself up without depending on what happens outside, the lighter you'll move, and the less power the world will have over you. Accepting this can feel uncomfortable, even painful, because it means facing the truth. No one cares about your story, your dreams, or your wounds as deeply as you do. And that shouldn't make you sad. It should set you free. Because if they don't care that much, then they don't have the power to stop you either. Life isn't about the world giving you permission. It's about you giving it to yourself. And the moment you understand that, your way of being in the world changes forever. Now ask yourself sincerely, what are you still waiting to change before you can feel okay? What external dependency is still defining your peace? Write it in the comments, or leave this sentence as a reminder to yourself. I don't need anything to change in order to move forward. The power is within me. Lesson 35. You won't feel like it, but do it anyway. How many times have you said, "I'll start tomorrow"? How many times have you told yourself, "When I have more time, when I'm more motivated, when I feel ready"? And meanwhile, your life slips away in waiting, in excuses dressed up as logical reasons. Because of course, who wants to go for a run after a bad night's sleep? Who's eager to sit down and study after an 8-hour workday? And who feels like sorting through mental chaos when they're emotionally drained? But listen closely. Motivation is an occasional guest. Discipline, that's the one that changes your life. Epictetus said it plainly. It's not because things are difficult that we don't dare. It's because we don't dare that they are difficult. And he was right, because if you're waiting to feel like it, my friend, you might be sitting there for the rest of your life. A Stoic doesn't live by what feels good. They live by what they know needs to be done, even if it's hard, even if they'd rather not, even without fireworks. Think about that course you know would help you, but you still haven't started. That important email you keep pushing to tomorrow. That decision you know you need to make but keep postponing because now's not the right time. And you know what's worse? That not now starts repeating itself day after day, until you realize years have gone by and you've been putting off what truly matters. All the while spinning in circles, dealing with everything except you. Mel Robbins went through the same thing. There was a time she didn't even want to get out of bed. What changed her was one idea, so simple it's brilliant. The 5-second rule. When you need to do something important, don't wait to feel ready. Just count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and do it. That's it. No overthinking. Because as she says, if you don't act within those first 5 seconds, your brain starts making excuses. And once that happens, you lose time, and you lose control of your life. Want to stop living on pause? Start with something small. First, create a daily routine that gets you closer to the life you want. A morning walk, 15 minutes to read something meaningful, a little screen-free time before bed. Simple things, but done consistently. Then, when you feel that urge to delay, remember the countdown. Use those 5 seconds to push yourself forward. This isn't about doing heroic things every day. It's about doing what's right, even when you don't feel like it. Because if you keep waiting for the mood to strike, you're just delaying the moment you start living. And you didn't come here for that. You didn't come to survive on autopilot. You came to build a life that feels like it means something. And that begins the moment you decide to act, even when it's not perfect timing. So, what about you? Will you dare to try it this week? Tell us in the comments what action you're going to take with that countdown. Because maybe that thing you do today in 5 seconds is the very thing that starts to change your whole story. Taking back control of your mind is taking back control of your life. It's not about eliminating negative thoughts entirely. It's about learning to manage them, filtering what you allow in, and acting despite them. Every day is an opportunity to break free from the invisible chains that hold you back, to stop being a prisoner of your mind, and to start using it to your advantage. Because transformation doesn't come from a single decision, but from every choice you make, every thought you choose to feed, and every action you take. The power has always been in your hands. If you've made it this far, write in the comments, "Only I have power over my mind." The fact that you've made it to the end says a lot about your commitment to yourself. And that's what builds real strength, day by day. Subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. And if you know someone who needs this message, share it with them. Click the videos on screen and let's keep walking this path together.